We want to spruce up your spring with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash that you can spend however you like. But that's not all, as you'll also receive not one, but 2 brand new designer watches and a fabulous Mulberry handbag. For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here with an exclusive opportunity just for you, our incredible GB News viewers. We're giving you the opportunity to win a VIP studio tour right here at GB News HQ. Plus, you'll also get to meet yours truly. It's easy to enter, just head to gbnews.com/community competition and follow the easy steps. Don't miss out, enter now, and I'll see you soon at GB News. Full T's and C's apply.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's papers tonight. Join us over the next hour for a bunch of stories, including reform might be falling apart at the seams, but voters still prefer them to Labour. And a migrant who sexually assaulted a woman has avoided deportation after claiming to be gay. I'm not sure he understands how being gay works. And will we have to put our mummies in the cupboard? Afrocentric MPs say that it's offensive to display the Egyptian mummified bodies, and they want reparations. Honestly, does anyone from one of these grievance groups not want reparations? I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight I'm joined by the funny people Cressida Wetton and Nick Dixon to take you through Saturday's top stories. This is Headliners. But before we get to tomorrow's news, let's have tonight's headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Leo. Very good evening to you. Our top stories. President Trump has alluded to a breakthrough in ceasefire talks between Russia and Ukraine during a speech at the US Department of Justice. Trump says he was given some pretty good news without providing further details, and gave himself credit for bringing both sides to the negotiating table. Now, earlier in the day, he said the US had held good and productive talks with Ukraine and Russia. It follows a meeting in Moscow between his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and Vladimir Putin.
I want to get it stopped. And we've had some very good calls today with Russia and with Ukraine. They've agreed for a ceasefire if we can get it with Russia. And it's not easy. It's a tough one. But I think we're doing it.
Well, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia's response proves Vladimir Putin will try to prolong the war rather than agree to a ceasefire. He's accused Putin of sabotaging diplomacy by setting difficult and unacceptable conditions for peace. Well, Putin says the situation is starting to move. He's praised Donald Trump, and he said he'll guarantee the safety of Ukrainian troops in the Russian Kursk region if they surrender. It comes as the G7 nations voice unwavering support for Ukraine and warned Russia to accept a 30-day ceasefire or face further sanctions. They indicated Ukraine would need security guarantees to guard against future Russian aggression. Foreign Secretary David Lammy says the ball is in Vladimir Putin's court.
Now is the time for a ceasefire with no conditions. Ukraine has set their position out. It is now for Russia to accept it. I think that there is a coalition of the willing emerging to give Ukraine the security architecture and arrangements that they need.
Well, the Prime Minister says Vladimir Putin must stop playing games with a ceasefire and come to the table. Sir Keir Starmer says Russia has denounced his plans to send international forces to Ukraine, but he will gather world leaders in a video call tomorrow, the so-called Coalition of the Willing, as they discuss sending peacekeeping forces to Ukraine. The Russian captain of a container ship which crashed into the US oil tanker in the North Sea has been charged over the death of a crew member. Vladimir Motin will appear at Hull Magistrates Court on Saturday, charged with gross negligence manslaughter. The two ships crashed off the East Yorkshire coast on Monday morning. Filipino national Mark Angelo Pernia has been named as the crew member of the Portuguese-flagged vessel, who's missing and presumed dead. And Marcus Rashford and Jordan Henderson have been named in Thomas Tuchel's first England squad ahead of March's World Cup qualifiers. Rashford rewarded for his good form on loan at Aston Villa from Manchester United. And players at opposite ends of their careers have been called up. 35-year-old Henderson, he last played for England in November 2023. He's back, and there's a first call-up for 32-year-old Newcastle defender Dan Burn. They will be alongside Arsenal's 18-year-old Miles Lewis-Skelly, with Harry Kane to continue as captain. Thomas Tuchel, this is his first game. Well, he's described Henderson as a serial winner and says Burns' selection is long overdue. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now, it's over to Leo.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron, and hello and welcome to Headliners, where we give you the best of tomorrow's newspapers with the best of today's comedians. First things first, let's see what we have on the front pages. The Guardian leads with Prime Minister says Putin must not play games over ceasefire. The Telegraph has stop your games, Starmer tells Putin. The Times has 1 million to have disability benefit cut by Labour. And more front pages in a moment, but first, Cressida, what do you make of this Guardian front page with Starmer getting tough with Putin?
It's very tough, isn't it? I've always said that about Keir Starmer. PM, Putin must not play games over ceasefire. Nick will do an impression later.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
You must stop playing games. Just don't play. It's not very scary, is it? Even when I did, it was a bit scary.
I don't think it's going to have any impact on Putin. I think he's trying to talk tough because Putin is being portrayed as Trump's new best friend in The Guardian. I don't think that's the case, but The Guardian does. They think that Putin and Trump are getting very, very cosy, and there's this implication that Putin's going to get everything he wants, and Keir's trying to sound tough and say, no, I won't let that happen, you know, like he hasn't for the last 2 years.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing, Nick, the Trump administration, if not necessarily Trump himself, but people in the Trump administration, like Rubio, are now talking tough on Putin and saying that Putin must come to the table and must agree to the ceasefire.
Yeah, although if you look today, I mean, Putin's been saying some quite nice things. He's been saying Trump is doing everything to restore at least some of what was being destroyed by the previous administration. And Trump, in his very long speech to the Department of Justice, I actually watched the whole thing. A lot of digressions and stuff about basketball, but there was also a bit where he said he's doing well with Russia. He says, if I can reveal a little secret, we're doing well with Russia. But it's a tough negotiation. That is a tough one, he kept saying. But this thing with Starmer, this is a virtual meeting. It's a coalition of the willing. Basically, some blokes he's managed to find for a Zoom call, which he thinks is going to end the war. And what he's really, he's got the NATO, he's got the EU Commission, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand. Essentially, he's acting as Trump's kind of European secretary, saying, because he said, the full quote is, we can't allow Putin to play games with President Trump's deal. So he's making sure that he points out it's Trump's deal. So he's just there to actually, I'm just doing the follow-up Zoom call for President Trump's deal. That's really what's happening.
So he's abdicated himself of any responsibility. I mean, this whole thing has been a bit of a shot in the arm for Starmer. You know, especially when Trump was seen, and, you know, Vance was seen as attacking the British troops. Starmer could swoop in and look patriotic and say, no, we're going to rally behind Ukraine with whatever they've got left. And yeah, for liberal left-wing leaders across the Western world, the Trump move really sort of helped them out, it looks like.
Yeah, I suppose it did. And I think Trump's been really good at being gracious with everybody, really. I mean, I think he's giving Putin some dignity, even though lots of people in the West wouldn't. They'd just slate him. And he's kind of doing the same for Starmer. He was nice to Starmer, even when he didn't necessarily need to be. I don't think he slagged David Lammy off yet. So it's all going quite well.
That's something to look forward to. Moving on, we've got the Daily Telegraph, Nick.
Yeah, well, they got the Starmer one again. Stop your games, Starmer tells Putin. So tough. And then they've got some of the ones, they've got Farage sort of going, at the Cheltenham. I'm not sure what's happening there.
It looks a bit like, you know, when Trump was mocking that reporter.
Yeah, it does look a bit like that. Or an old League of Gentlemen character. What's the matter? But that's Reform's big guns go head-to-head at Cheltenham. We'll talk about that later. But they've also got migrants could face human rights law curbs. So, you know, the Telegraph's been doing this basically campaign. Every night it's been another absurd story. Chicken nuggets, you know, another paedophile who can't go back home because his kid, you know, can't blink or something. There's some absurdity every night. And so that campaign seems to have had some impact, because the government's now considering restricting illegal migrants from exploiting the ECHR. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? They're going to review Article 8 and make sure it's interpreted in a sensible and proportionate way. We're going to find out in spring or early summer if that actually does anything.
Yeah.
And they're learning from Denmark. They've commissioned a report into how Denmark's doing it, because Denmark isn't quite as pathetic as us. So they've looked and gone, how are you stopping all these endless people? Presumably they'll just be like, not being complete cowards would be one way.
Denmark accepts roughly about 800 migrants, 800 asylum seekers every year, compared to the UK, which accepts about 20 gajillion.
Yes.
So, you know, it's a big difference.
That's barely
in
half a hotel full. What are they playing at?
How is their Travelodge industry going to be sustained with 800 migrants a year? But they've got, you know, left-wing Liberal government, or fairly, you know, centre-left government. But because they deal with migration properly, you know, the right wing doesn't get a look in. Whereas here, you know, we can't wait to get reform in to get something sorted out. And it's great that they're looking at the interpretation of the ECHR, because, you know, people have said we need to leave the ECHR. But the problem is really more the activist judges who misinterpret it.
Yeah, and I love the way this is written, the language, you know, we've got to check. We're going to see if it's being used properly. I wonder if it is being used properly. And as Nick said, it's going to take a few months to find out.
Yeah, and we've got this story as well down at the bottom with the new head of Ofsted. The top brass in Ofsted is now a guy called Hamid Patel, who, when he was a head teacher, told his pupils to wear the hijab outside the school, and had a visiting cleric to the school who called Jews pigs.
Oh, yeah, that's shocking.
One of those signs that, you know, we're actually quite a long way along the road to, you know, becoming
I did a moderately
We're not the country we were 20 years ago.
I know. I did a moderately rude tweet about this guy you can check out, but I can't really say it. Can we also mention that this Reeves one, because Reeves has been rebuked by Number 10 over Trump blast. She's been slapped down. Presumably not literal. I can't see Starmer doing that. She's been slapped down because she implied that the weak economy was Trump's fault. She's run out of people to blame.
Really?
So she's just throwing pins at the Darwish, like, Trump, because she's like, oh, yeah, it's because of the uncertainty about the tariffs and all that kind of. But Number 10, they've been asked if it is that, and they've gone, no.
Yeah, I don't think it's uncertainty over Trump's tariffs. I think it's certainty over Labour being useless. I think that's the possibility. Although for balance, I'd just like to say Labour are wonderful. Moving on, we've got the Times, Cressida.
Yeah, 1 million to have disability benefit cut by Labour. So this is Starmer again talking tough. It's his new thing. He's been watching some Margaret Thatcher DVDs or something, and he's talking about tightening up the rules around disability. So there's huge numbers of people that are claiming because of sort of mental health type problems. We've got some notes on this. Oh, here we go. So it's about 45% of claims are relating to things that, in layman's terms, might not really be a reason not to go to work. And Starmer's using this language. He's saying there's a moral case for sending people to work, which I completely agree with, partly because we don't want to pay for people that don't need to be paid for, and also because there's no dignity in not going to work. It's not going to help you. So this is great, but of course there's going to be Labour backlash over this because it's not traditionally what they're into. Yeah.
And there's already, I think Angela Rayner and people in Labour are kicking back against this thing. But I mean, I keep reading in The Guardian, like, they say things like only 0.4% of benefits claimants are fraudulent. Honestly, if only 0.4% of benefits claimants are fraudulent, I must know every single one of them. Like, in Scotland,
that is possible you do, though.
yeah. I mean, like, the benefit system is seen almost as a career in some places. It's great. You get everything paid for you. You get your house, your healthcare, everything. You get free money to go and spend. Yes. The more kids you have, the more money you get.
Every day I watch the 2 flats across from me, social housing, massive TVs are just on all day. The electricity costs alone, while I have to come to work. Granted, my job is just mouthing off on telly, but still, I'm paying for them.
Something to watch.
I'm paying, they're watching me. Yeah, it's not the whole, it works.
I don't think they're watching you.
Circle of life. They totally are, every night. But, by the way, this thing, so this benefits thing, they say claimants for PIP, personal independence payments, are required to undergo an assessment of their ability to fulfil daily tasks, including cooking and engaging with other people face-to-face. I can't do either of those, but I'm not on benefits. I'm still out here working, eating microwave meals, never looking anyone in the eye. You can still work, all right?
You know what? You probably could be. And they're going to clamp down on people with minor mental health problems. So they're going to be rejected. You'll still be safe, Nick.
I'll be all right.
With your serious mental health problems.
Lewis will be on borderline.
I've noticed there's been an epidemic of people in the comedy world. Every single stand-up comedian now has ADHD. I think it's because over lockdown we had too much time to sit around thinking and ruminating and looking at our belly buttons. So then we all decided we all had these sort of made-up conditions.
I thought it is
made up.
Isn't that a given that all comics have like a too fast mind and they're a bit lazy? That's ADHD, right?
It's a human condition.
Yeah. But it's another irony is sort of that Labour can do this kind of thing, right? Because if the Tories do it, they're seen as the nasty party, whereas Labour can do it. Morally, they get away with it. And they also get away with it because the system might actually work for them and do some stuff.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Of course, because they're part of the woke blob that has to implement it. And obviously, we've got the moral imperative to do it because we're going to be going to war soon. That's something to look forward to. Let's move on and look at some more front pages. The Weekend has Ukraine children stolen by Russia. Now, Elon Musk cuts the team that rescues them. The Financial Times has spending cuts ruffle tense cabinet. And the Daily Star has Nessie, we're coming to get ya. So let's kick off with that, Nick, with the Weekend and the story about Ukrainian children being trafficked to Russia.
Yeah, it's, as you say, Ukraine children stolen by Russia. And Musk has apparently cut this elite team which finds the children. And so it's part of his cost-cutting drive, you know, as Doge and all that kind of thing. They have been surprisingly aggressive, the US, on this. But I suppose, in a kind of very harsh way, it's to bring Ukraine to the negotiating table. Surprising method, you might say, because obviously in Europe everyone's very pro-Ukraine, so it's quite jarring. But obviously Musk doesn't see it that way. But he did say in a tweet, he's like, "Look, I'm giving them Starlink. I've threatened to fight Putin."
Starlink.
Yeah, he's still giving him Starlink though, isn't he? Right, and he hasn't turned that off.
Yeah.
So, and he said, I've offered to fight Putin one-on-one in a cage.
They have paid for it as well.
But he's saying he's very pro-Ukraine, but he just wants to end it. So he sees these kind of harsh measures, presumably, as part of ending the war as quickly as possible.
But, I mean, these are children that have been trafficked from Ukraine to Russia, and you know, Russia's a degenerate criminal state. So we know that a proportion of these children are going to end up being groomed, being abused, end up in paedophile rings. And it's horrific. And Moscow themselves say that 700,000 Ukrainian children are now in Russia. I mean, obviously, part of that is because the territory, you know, they see has become Russian. But I mean, this seems like a strange thing to cut. I know Musk's approach is to cut everything and see what breaks when it's cut. That's his approach at Twitter. But you know, this seems to go beyond you know, any sort of partisan politics or who likes Zelensky or whatever. I mean, this is children that we're talking about.
Yeah, and at the moment, Musk could go in there and pick them up himself and bring them back. And there are still people who would not want to drive a Tesla.
He's already got about 20 children.
Well, there's that as well, yeah.
No, you're right. There's a huge moral question, obviously. I suppose he might say something like, you know, if you end the war, this kind of thing will end. But yeah, it does seem. Do you think he really knew that it was specifically cutting this, or just he made some sort of broad cuts?
It might have just been a number on a spreadsheet. And I get the sort of the overall approach of Doge, because a lot of foreign aid was being spent on politicised stuff and pushing, you know, really radical left-wing ideologies, the transgender clinics in Ghana and stuff like that. Like nobody needs that. You know what I mean? We don't need transgender operas with dwarves in Ecuador. It's all just a nonsense. But when it's something that's you know, actually trying to stop trafficked children, this is something I genuinely thought MAGA would be on the side of the children in this one. Moving on, Cressida, we've got the Financial Times.
Financial Times. So spending cuts ruffle tense cabinet. Well, I suppose we've discussed that, haven't we? Labour discussing whether or not to cut things. Bullion bears gold price at record high.
Yeah.
So gold is currently really expensive. Is it because there's a war on? Is everyone panicking and saying, let's get some gold, they can't take it from us?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. When there's global uncertainty, gold is a safe haven, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, this is my Achilles heel. The economy, as you know, this is your area, and this is not even legible. It was paywalled online, so now I've got a riff about gold. But it's at $3,000 per ounce, which apparently is a lot.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot.
And there's this tariff uncertainty with Trump, right? And there's something else to do with the Federal Reserve easing something or other. I don't know. It's my one weakness is the economy, Leo. Can you explain it?
Well, they're talking about bringing back, you know, because it used to be the gold standard that underpinned money. So you actually take your banknote into the bank and the Federal Reserve would give you whatever amount of gold it was worth. I mean, I think that was the original idea. And then, you know, we did away with that. We got fiat currency, and it's essentially just a worthless bit of paper that everybody believes in. It's sort of like Bitcoin, but even more prone to being, you know, overinflated. But they're talking about bringing back currencies. I think Trump has even mentioned bringing back gold to underpin the American dollar. So he's going to need a lot of gold.
It's very retro and based. I can see Gen Z going for that.
I mean, it might have just been something he was spitballing in one of his 50 ideas per minute.
Hasn't Trump got his own coin as well? When you just make everything Trump coin, that's what he should do.
There was the Strump and the Smilania, which are not the most attractively named coins. But yeah, apparently it was a rug pull. It was a pump and dump crypto rug pull. And some people, quite a lot of investors, lost their money. But that's what you get for investing in a Melania Trump crypto scheme. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's it for part one. Still to come, a migrant sex criminal avoids deportation by saying he's gay. The Tories admit they should have actually done something while in power. And Labour is somehow losing to a party that's tearing itself apart. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
See, you, Anne, are much more sophisticated than what I am.
Oh, yeah?
So you do like these sort of Fashion Week things? Are you into all that?
What, you mean like London Fashion Week?
Yeah. Do you like that sort of thing?
I used to. I find it all a bit of a bore now. But, I mean, I used to love going along to London Fashion Week. Yeah, because actually sitting there and watching them all on the catwalk, I mean, it's quite exciting.
You see, it's just I've seen this in the papers this morning.
Oh,
and it's Paris Fashion Week at the moment. And this designer... Hodakova, who's Swedish.
Oh, know her well.
So there's her latest design.
It's a lady wearing a cello.
Yes, she's wearing a cello, and there's someone else wearing a violin
as a hat. Now, the violin...
Oh, there you go.
Well, actually, the violin is ridiculous because it's so big.
But the cello... It's
but why is a lady wearing a cello? I mean, it looks stupid.
It's a second-hand cello.
Well,
so she hasn't designed... What has she designed? But we should put some Legos in it.
Can't be very comfortable. I mean, how do you sit down in a cello?
And there's no armholes.
No. Honest.
So you can't scratch your nose.
That's how you get a headline, isn't it? But it's not fashion.
But apparently they're all the models are wearing smudged eyeliner, which looks like someone's done their eyeliner with a Sharpie. And that's
very Bieber,
that's inspired by punk rock.
I used to go to the clothes show in Birmingham. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember the clothes show.
Tim Vincent.
Yes.
presented it.
Yeah, it was a very big deal, but I think those days are a bit over. It's a bit like Meghan's programme on Netflix. Those days are over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very dated to be pretending to be the perfect hostess and you just spend hours arranging fruit on a plate. It's just not done nowadays. We're all a bit more practical.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/yoursay for a couple of your comments. Coral North says, dream team on Headliners tonight. Leo's hair looks good. Thank you very much. It cost a lot of money. And Bob's your uncle says, I've lived my life. I'm happy to go. A cheery note for a Friday night. We've got the Daily Mail now, and Labour must be in trouble because it looks like they're going to lose a by-election to Reform, a party who can't even decide who's in charge, Cressida.
I think that's right. Poll finds Reform poised to win Runcorn by-election ahead of Labour, despite infighting between Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe. So it looks like Reform are polling at about 45% to Labour's 35%. This is Lord Ashcroft doing the polling. Although some of this work was carried out just before the row, which I think is quite important to note. So we don't really, in a sense, that makes it a bit of a non-story because we don't know what impact that's had. But things are generally looking good for Reform.
Are they? I mean, yes, it's true that the punter on the street only knows about Nigel Farage. That's absolutely true. They don't know who Rupert Lowe is. But many branch officers have resigned. The latest one I saw was the Newcastle North branch manager, these local chairmen and so on. So that's happening. And the question is, will it in time impact their polls? I don't know. This is an own goal because this is Mike Amesbury's seat, which, you know, is like an open goal for someone to win. No, of course, it could have been another party. So that's positive for them. But I do wonder if this will impact them more. I mean, personally, I would struggle to vote for them the way they've treated Rupert Lowe, and many people have questions about Zia Yusuf and if he's taken the party in the direction that they want. So I'm not sure.
Don't people still feel that if that's their political persuasion, there's nowhere else for them to go?
Well, that's the only thing. That's the thing we keep getting told. You've got nowhere else to go. Yeah. But the problem with that is then another party comes up, then you've got somewhere else to go. So I'm not sure that's the best strategy. Yeah, I mean, keep saying that.
Do you think this could just blow over? And do you think Reform could reconstitute themselves? Obviously, possibly without Rupert Lowe. And then go on to do as well as they've been projected to do at the next general election. I mean, it's 4 years away, more than 4 years.
Well, that's it. That's the possibility that these things get forgotten and people do just move on. As I say, no one on the street knows Rupert Lowe. Some people say that doesn't matter, but it could matter. Yeah, I mean, Farage has had these kind of things before. He's survived them. So let's see. I don't want to say too much because the next story is so similar.
Yeah, well, let's move on to the next story. We've got the Express now with bad news for Nigel Farage as Elon Musk picks a side in the reform wars, and it's not Nigel's one, Nick.
Yes, Elon Musk backs Rupert Lowe to become Prime Minister in Nigel Farage's snub. But is it really that? So what he actually did, someone tweeted a video of Rupert Lowe, said, can we please get this man as Prime Minister? And Elon Musk replied with 2 Union Jack emojis. It's not quite the same. It's not the same as getting up and saying, I back this guy, and then jumping up and down in a weird autistic way. But it is a kind of backing of him. And he's said before that he likes what he says on X. And obviously he's criticised Farage in the past, saying he doesn't have what it takes. So it is a kind of another little nudge in Rupert Lowe's direction. It's like he sort of doesn't want to go in too hard, but is kind of hinting that he does like Rupert Lowe. So, yeah, I'm sure Farage wasn't thrilled about it. And I don't know, it's too soon to say which way this is going to go. I think it's certainly been much more of a problem than they anticipated. I think it's a bit like those guys that killed John Wick's dog, right? They attacked Rupert Lowe and they thought, oh, it's not a big deal, you know, we'll get rid of him. But he has a massive online following. Yeah. And many people, including me, I may as well say, felt that he represented our views. And I was a Reform voter. Yeah. So I voted, and I see what Rupert Lowe's saying. I like this guy. Then you treat him terribly with a very questionable investigation that we're told won't matter. The outcome of it won't matter anyway. He gets reported for bullying. We hear so many stories like that. We're like, really? Yeah. And then he gets reported to the police. And you just go, that's the thing that's really put me off. Obviously, there's the other side, Farage being the head of it, you know, the brilliant campaigner and communicator we all know he is, and that it's all really he's the only game in town. That's the other argument. But I'm on the side of going, even though I respect Nigel as an esteemed colleague and broadcaster and campaigner and so on, I'm just going, you can't treat Rupert Lowe like this and have no repercussions.
Yeah, I sort of feel like Rupert Lowe is the sort of... with Reform without Rupert Lowe would be like the A-team without B.A. Baracus.
Fair enough. Well, the other thing is, Nigel's... I mean, on the one hand, it's taken him years and years and years to get to this point, but he's also sort of implied that look how fast Reform's grown, and it's almost leading you to think, oh, anybody could start a political party. It's this new thing you can do in 6 months, and it just takes some graphics and a bit of being on a podcast or whatever, which I don't think is really true, but that's kind of how it feels at the moment. And, of course, Elon Musk, I mean, how mysterious. What does that mean? Two flags. Yeah. This is why he gets all the women, isn't it? It's just so... we don't know, you can project anything onto that. We love it.
Well, hopefully he won't get Rupert Lowe pregnant as quickly as he normally does with people on Twitter. We've got the Express now, with the Tories admitting Labour are more like Thatcher than they are, Nick.
Yeah. Which one is this? The
8.
8. Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course we lost that one. Tories should have axed NHS England when in power, Robert Jenrick admits. So, yes... This was hilarious because Starmer was in an interview saying that he wants a small state, a smaller, more agile state that's more active. I was like, have you been watching Milton Friedman videos? What is it? Like, he's got a copy of Atlas Shrugged popping out of his bag. Like Starmer the Libertarian. It's completely ridiculous. But this is what he's doing. Think about Starmer. He's kind of ruthless. He's certainly not adaptable, but he'll do things that don't seem to necessarily match Labour ideology just if they need to be done. But if he didn't have his sort of inherent hatred of British people, maybe it'd be all right. But so this has led Jenrick to sort of agree that they should have done what Labour are doing over NHS England, because it's this kind of quango, it's not efficient. And now Jenrick's saying, oh, yeah, we could have done some good stuff in the 14 years we were there. Why didn't we do one good thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's great to see Labour, you know, getting into the Doge spirit, getting, you know, the Javier Milei chainsaw out and slashing away some bureaucracy at the NHS. But they have started up 27 new quangos as well as this one that they're cutting back.
I think you're both being very trusting and optimistic about this. I want to see the Elon send me an email of what you did last week, and if you can't, you're fired. That's what I'm saying. They won't do that.
They're
talking
you didn't do
about
any surgery? You're gone.
That's what I want to see. They're talking about merging. So this isn't like, you know, when somebody works in a factory and they send half the staff home, you're gone. This is merging. I mean, they're talking about it taking 2 years, and so let's assume that means 4. Yeah. And even if you get merged in these kind of jobs, you don't lose your job, do you?
Yeah,
At best,
I don't want to be merged.
They might stop hiring, maybe. I'll believe it when I see it.
I know about this from the plot line of The Office, when the Swindon branch and the Slough branch had to merge. So some people might have to take voluntary redundancy. But yeah, I mean, I think public sector workers are generally pretty protected, especially considering Labour gets so much money from the unions, who will be protecting their staff as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for this section. There's loads of cracking stories still to come. A Waitrose worker gets cancelled for sharing a Telegraph cartoon. Generation Z get religious, and there are demands for reparations over mummies. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's go to gbnews.com/yoursay for a couple of your comments. Polly Whelan says, thank you, Headliners, for pointing out the reform have problems at a local level. It's not all as rosy as Farage is pretending. And Lynn Dixon says, there's definitely lots of chemistry between Cressida and Nick. Leo, you are definitely playing Gooseberry tonight, aren't I, Justin? Rocky Rivers replies, don't embarrass them. They will read that. Yes, we will.
People always say, is that your mum? That one actually had my surname, Dixon. People will say that's just my family members chipping in.
You're not denying it. We've got the Telegraph now, and it looks like the establishment is still helping out Pakistani men who sexually assault women, Cressida.
Correct. Migrant who sexually assaulted woman stays in UK after claiming he is gay. This is a 53-year-old man from Pakistan who's already been here illegally for 11 years. So that doesn't make me warm to him. And he's then got in trouble for sexually offending. And a month after that, he's decided that he's gay. And the Home Office don't believe him, which is just typical of them, isn't it? But they haven't got rid of him due to a legal blunder, apparently. So the case is going to be reheard. I wonder who's paying for that. He's probably finding his own legal costs. So it's just, this is the story, isn't it, that we keep reading, and there's currently about 35,000 outstanding appeals like this.
All men pretending to be gay. I mean, Nick, this is slightly worrying that, you know, people feel so brazenly game the system as, you know, saying, oh, I'm gay, I'm transgender, my child doesn't like chicken nuggets. You can't send me back, I've got to stay in the UK. I guess the good news is, and this is possibly because of the attention that the Telegraph has brought to this issue, is that the case is going to be reheard. And hopefully this time, you know, the judges will make the right decision.
You said they game the system. You could almost say they gay the system. Just came into my head. I thought, say it on telly, why not? But someone at the ECHR, someone has really peed off someone at the Telegraph from the ECHR. This is my theory. Because every night now, it's just like, we hate the ECHR. Have you look at their complete joke? Don't you think? They've killed their dog or something.
Like a divorce
the John Wick thing again. Something, right? There's one guy just going, I don't know anything about the ECHR. He's there every night.
It's a good topic.
quick. Of course they're trying to hammer it because we need... I mean, this person's claiming he had a relationship and lived with a man. There's not a single text message saying, put the fish fingers in the oven, darling, I'll be home in 10 minutes. There's no evidence
is that
of
what
this.
they call it? He didn't even like Erasure. I mean, this guy, he didn't listen to Barbra Streisand. I'm just trying to name some gay cliches, but I don't know them well enough.
Didn't turn up to court in sparkly hot pants.
Exactly. He could have done just do some leg work.
Yeah.
That's not a euphemism
and
either.
some peck work. We've got the Telegraph now, and a Waitrose worker has been suspended for having the same kind of opinions as Waitrose shoppers.
Nice. Waitrose wine expert claims he was suspended for sharing Telegraph cartoon. And this is a guy who has an account called Ben on Wine. Great account. Follows me. Smart cookie. Obviously a great guy. And he was treated terribly by Waitrose. He said Waitrose want to discipline me for around 30 tweets, which I believe are simply an expression of my conservative, patriotic views. One of them was a Telegraph cartoon.
We got the cartoon.
Oh, we got
here.
The cartoon. Perfect.
There it is.
And it says, your son is falling behind in sex education. He can only name 47 of the 100 genders. That's pretty good. That's a decent joke.
And it actually undercounts how ridiculous the situation is, because I believe there are 847 genders.
Yes, that's correct.
Quite bigoted, in fact.
Free speech union is helping him, but this is absurd. I mean, why should you... I mean, we do have this culture now. Someone came up to me in the supermarket today, this actually happened today, and said, are you on GB News? Even being on it, to someone I met in the supermarket, I was like, I do lots of channels. Like, why did I say that? I totally don't. That's the first thing that came to my head. Because, you know, the area I'm in, it's not safe. And this was a guy I knew, he's a former neighbour. Nice guy, so we had a good chat. But the point is, if I didn't want to say it, you can imagine. But why should Waitrose care that you're sharing a Telegraph cartoon? It's absurd.
And we've seen a spate of incidents like this, Cressida.
Well, yeah, I mean, read the room, I get it. I've only ever been spotted out there once, and it was in Waitrose because the Aldi on the edge of the road was shut. So I had to go there to get a cauliflower. And this woman came up to me, hello, I watch headliners. Of course you do, we're in Waitrose, great. But these are the same people, the company is the same company as John Lewis, isn't it? Who've upset everybody with their woke ads. And it's like, guys, time to read the room. You know, in my opinion, they serve posh older people who might have a few quid.
But it's extraordinary, isn't it, how the woke ideology has taken over so much. It's seen as a default. Any social setting and any deviance from it is like, oh, you've got to be cancelled, you're scared to say it. It's an extraordinary achievement, terrible for the country. But in terms of what they've managed, how they've managed to dominate the culture, incredible.
To be fair to them, this could be one difficult person. I mean, it's ongoing, isn't it? We don't know how this is going to end.
Yeah, well, the
Free Speech Union helping him, so hopefully he'll win.
And the whole case is just about, you know, social media posts that don't seem to be, you know, anything that remarkable. And I'm sure if he'd been saying things about Labour or the Liberal Democrats, he wouldn't be being disciplined over it. Moving on, we've got the Times now, and Generation Z are returning to religion, perhaps because they've seen the horrors that replaced it, Cressida.
That's right. Spiritual Gen Z drive increase in Bible sales. So that's great, isn't it? I think it's great. So there's been an increase of 87% between 2019 and 24. That's massive. Publishing's supposed to be a dying industry. Get into Christian books, guys. That's the future.
Specialise in really thin paper with gold on the edges.
Yeah, exactly right. So apparently sales of fiction works are increasing. I didn't think that. I'm just stunned at that. Non-fiction books have been declining, but Bibles, that's where it's at. And these young people aren't describing themselves necessarily as religious, but they're saying that they're spiritual now. It's the older people that are atheists.
I mean, to me, when people say they're spiritual, that makes me think that they're middle-aged friends of my mum and they've got incense and crystals.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, yeah, if you look at it, it's a very interesting graph in the piece. The boomers are the kind of spiritual nadir. They had the lowest amount of spirituality. They were just selfish, individualistic, 60s stuff. But then it gets a little bit more spiritual with each generation. So I'm millennial, so I'm slightly less cynical than you, Leo, because you're X. And that's how it goes. And then Gen Z are getting back into religion and spirituality. Some of them I've noticed from speaking to them, they are very like pro-life and very Christian, but then they'll be kind of woke and they won't let you can't say a certain word or something, or they'll freak out. So it's kind of a strange combination. But yeah, it's better. What's happened as well is the new atheism was the cool thing. Then that's kind of faded. People can watch YouTube videos. They can find it's a little bit more complicated. The new atheists haven't actually won the argument. Also, you've got like quantum physics and stuff. It's even the scientific argument. It's not clear cut anymore that they have all the answers. The materialist kind of Dawkins lot.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a new world.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, the objective scientific look at the universe would say that there's no such thing as free will, because that would be a mind or some kind of spiritual thing moving the physical realm.
Yeah.
Whereas everything has got cause and effect. We're all just sort of billiard balls on a table. Modern physics says there's no such thing as free will.
Yeah,
it's an
but they're
illusion.
all depressed billiard balls, aren't they? No, they are. So they need something
That's
else.
true. I mean, we've lost meaning and we've got the decline. That's the other reason for it. But anyway.
Well, moving on, we've got
Big
Saturday's
topic.
Mail now with some Afrocentric MPs offended by a museum exhibit. And they've gone crying to Mummy, Nick.
Nice. Yes, it's displaying Egyptian mummies offends the wishes of the ancestors and should be banned, demands MPs group for African reparations. That's African spelt weirdly.
And this is in Britain.
Apparently, it's led by Labour MP Bel Ribeiro Addy and a group of 16 parliamentarians who've called for the return of all human remains held by British institutions, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I mean, it says the continued presence of these remains in British institutions causes profound distress to diaspora communities and countries of origin. Leave Britain then. It's all revenge. It's all like revenge of what's it called? Empire Strikes Back. We've had the empire, now everyone's annoyed at us.
Yeah, well, we're told that, when people come to the UK and people are born in the UK, they become 100% British. They're just as British as anybody else. So why are these people who are born in Britain prioritising Africa over Britain? Why are they asking for reparations for Africa? Surely they should be asking, what ways Britain can get money out of Africa? That's what I want my politicians to do.
Well, they would tell you that they've already done that. That would be their answer. It's also very frustrating. They're talking about enslavement and colonial violence, but they're also talking about ancient Egypt. I don't think ancient Egypt was colonised by Britain. That's not a thing. It's just confused.
It might have been a little bit.
We made the pyramids.
Certainly since then, we let the Suez Canal and all that sort of...
But these mummies, if they're 4,000 years old, they're conflating two different things.
Yeah. Well, and also they're sub-Saharan Africans, conflating themselves with Egyptians. And, I think the Egyptians they're Mediterranean people. They weren't, ethnically close or linked to sub-Saharan Africans. So it's strange to be aligning themselves, and I know that offends a lot of Egyptians when people come in and sort of Egypt wash themselves.
True.
But yeah, I mean, I just don't think immigration will work as a sort of way to sustain the population if people don't see themselves as British first. And this seems to be exposing the lie of it. Well, we've got the Express now, with the BBC having to pay presenters for age discrimination. Ironically, some BBC presenters need to show a bit of age discrimination, Cressida, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. BBC agrees dramatic settlement with presenters after discrimination claim. And as dramatic as it is, we don't know how much it is. So there's no figures in this. We're not allowed to know. But it's some women, we know that. And some of them are making the case that they've been discriminated against because they're women.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bit gender pay gappy. I think what's gone on is other colleagues are being paid a lot more and they've said, I want some of that. And the BBC has settled, which of course doesn't mean they're admitting any liability. They've just said, I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah,
Have
they've
some
just
money.
realised, we get all this free money from people. Let's spaff some up this wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's low on the BBC's list of mistakes, as you've implied. And I'm sure they don't prioritise straight white men over women. But the age thing I do find more compelling, in media and in film and so on. There does seem to be an age discrimination, especially against women.
It's the media.
Yeah.
Surely it's you're not a sparkly thing now, so...
Yes, you're saying that's what it is. They knew what they were getting into.
As in you're not 25, so you're in the bin, but you've got to have something that appeals, haven't you? It's so competitive, and it can't not be competitive.
And you're saying they had nothing.
Are you suggesting that Nick and I trade in our looks and we're about to hit the wall?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
OK. Well, coming up, male contraception takes a step forward, so expect a lot of oops babies in about 9 months' time. Plus, Russell Brand's in trouble, and Liberals go from buying Teslas to bombing them. See you in a minute. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome to the Winter Sun Outlook, and if you are looking for some summer-like warmth, the place to be is Greece, where a spring heatwave will bring temperatures widely into the low to mid-20s, perhaps in some spots up to the high 20s, so remarkably warm air drifting out of North Africa, but at the same time, northern parts of Italy across the Balearics as well, a lot of unsettled weather, further showers driving into Portugal, a respite into the weekend, but more unsettled weather here next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of fine weather to come as we go into this weekend, but it is still going to be chilly with some frosty nights as well. The reason why we're going to have a lot of fine weather is because high pressure is building from the west, and it's this that's going to help clear away many of the showers that we've seen through recent days. That being said, there will still be a few showers for some of us as we go overnight across some southern southeastern parts, maybe eastern parts of England as well, and also towards the far north of Scotland, a bit of cloud and some showery rain starting to edge in. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather, some clear skies, allowing temperatures to take a bit of a dip, a bit of a frosty start for some of us, though in the far southeast, a brisk wind will stop temperatures dropping especially low here, and also across the very far north of Scotland, Shetland and later into Orkney, we are going to see a zone of cloud and outbreaks of rain pushing in, so not turning as cold here overnight, but elsewhere across much of Scotland and into Northern Ireland and Northern England, a bright start, but also a frosty one with temperatures sub-zero for many places. Slightly less chilly to start further south, but nonetheless a bit of frost is possible. And do watch out, there could be a few patches of fog or freezing fog in a few spots as well. Otherwise, as we go through tomorrow, and apart from one or two showers across some parts of England in particular, it's looking largely dry for most of us. Some sunshine breaking through at times as well. Worth noting though, the cloud and outbreaks of rain across the far north of Scotland will edge a bit further southwards. Temperatures for many similar to today, maybe a degree or so higher, so feeling okay in the sunshine, but in the southeast there will be a nagging breeze. After another chilly night for many of us, Saturday into Sunday. Sunday does look like it would get off to a bright start towards the southwest, but cloud towards the north-northeast will eventually make its way southwards across many places, and there will be a few spots of rain mixed in with this as well. As we go through next week, it is going to start chilly, but temperatures should gradually rise as we go through the week. Bye-bye.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Sun now with a male contraceptive pill, because trusting men to take a daily pill could never go wrong, Cressida.
Male contraceptive pill moves closer as men begin trial of drug that blocks sperm production. Well, this is interesting, isn't it? It's the future. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say we can't trust men to take the pill, but this is like, in this day and age, there's a lot of men who are very worried that they can't trust the women to take the pill. That's a good point. This is a bit of a counter thing. My concern is this is not a very long study. It's a 28-day trial involving 50 men with a 90-day mid-stage study expected to start. So it's not a lot to go on, is it, at this stage?
I guess, I mean, after 90 days, you're not going to have any babies. So how are they going to know?
Well, I'm worried that they trialled it on mice. I mean, if you're going to sleep with a mouse, it's absolutely fine, because it causes infertility within 2 weeks. And the mammals regain fertility after treatment ended, but we don't know if that's going to be the same for humans, right?
No, we don't.
I didn't read this in depth.
You're not worried about getting a contraceptive pill? I just think the sort of burden of pregnancy generally falls more on the woman
The best contraception, Leo, is staying away from women. I sound like Lewis Schaefer. Sorry, add that to the montage.
You could just use your personality. Moving on with The Guardian now, with Labour working with China to implement communism here, Nick.
Yeah, it's UK hoping to work with China to counteract Trump's climate-hostile policies. This is a weird one. This is like Ed Miliband. Remember him? He's back and he wants to align with China. And to be fair, his views are probably much closer to the CCP than they are to Trump. So it's not that surprising. And he's done the first visit in 8 years by a UK energy secretary, so he loves China. I always find that a bit weird, by the way, that like they're always like, oh, Russia's evil and the devil. But then China is what? Just amazing. I mean, I think in the long term, that might look a bit questionable. So you're going to have this like strange alliance where they want, experts are saying you're going to have the UK and EU with other major economies forming a pro-climate bloc against the weight of US, Russia and Saudi Arabia. I'm like, hang on, isn't China like burning coal for sport? Isn't that like their...
100%. This is like trying to book a group holiday and saying to everyone, right, everyone book the flights at 7 o'clock. And it's not... You don't think they're going to book them as well, do you? This isn't going to work out. I don't know what's going on here, but it's not good. And I think Ed Miliband is a bit bonkers.
Yes, I'd agree with that. Well, moving on, we've got The Telegraph now, with Russell Brand being sued for 220 grand for not writing a book. It's less than I'd sue him for if I had to read it, Nick.
It's Russell Brand sued for 220k for failing to write self-help books. Well, it's a bit weird. I mean, what happened is they gave him all this money to write these self-help books. Then, of course, these allegations came up, which, of course, he denies. And they're like, no, well, we're getting rid of them. So now it's a debate over who owes who a load of money. I mean, pretty decent payments as well. I mean, 142,000 for a second book, 75,000 up front for a first book, 140. I mean, I barely got that for my book deal. So that's not bad. So, but sadly not going to happen because of reasons.
Because he's shown he can write a book. He wrote My Bookie Book, and
yes,
I already read it. And
did you?
Yeah.
And you don't even like books, do you?
No, but it was a readable book. I mean, is this the case that they won't pay, or they have paid, and he won't write?
I think they've paid the upfront payment of 75 grand, and he would have been in line for all this other money. They've tried to get a ghostwriter involved, so presumably they've been paid some money.
Yeah.
Well, they're presumably not as much as Brand, surely. I don't know. Do ghostwriters make good money? And now they're trying to stop all this and get their costs back.
Okay, so this is them just trying to extract themselves from the deal.
I think so.
Well, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. The Guardian has Prime Minister says Putin must not play games over ceasefire. The Telegraph has stop your games, Starmer tells Putin, getting tough. The Times has 1 million to have disability benefit cut by Labour. The iWeekend leads with Ukraine children stolen by Russia. Now Elon Musk cuts the team that rescues them. The Financial Times leads with spending cuts ruffle tense cabinet. And the Daily Star has Nessie, we're coming to get ya. And that's it for tonight's show. Thanks so much to my guests, Cressida and Nick. I'll be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Nick Dixon and Lewis Schaefer. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then stay tuned for breakfast. And I hope to see you tomorrow night. Good night.
Lewis again.
Again, yeah.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of fine weather to come as we go into this weekend, but it is still going to be chilly with some frosty nights as well. The reason why we're going to have a lot of fine weather is because high pressure is building from the west, and it's this that's going to help clear away many of the showers that we've seen through recent days. That being said, there will still be a few showers for some of us as we go overnight across some southern, southeastern parts, maybe eastern parts of England as well, and also towards the far north of Scotland, a bit of cloud and some showery rain starting to edge in. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather, some clear skies, allowing temperatures to take a bit of a dip, a bit of a frosty start for some of us.